He saved me from the fire, and only then I realized he had started it. The photo burned too fast. I tried to grab it, but the flame devoured the boy's face, my face, in a single lick. The corners curled like leaves in autumn. 1 second it was proof, the next just smoke. I stood barefoot in the snow, still smelling roast beef and cinnamon from the dinner that had imploded less than an hour ago. My shirt clung to my back. The cold didn't reach me, not through the heat in my head. The living room behind me was empty now, silent, wine glasses half full, chairs knocked back, one broken plate, a knife on the floor. Sarah had screamed first. Evan had gone quiet. My mother had whispered my name, not in fear, but like she was testing if I'd answer. I didn't, because nothing made sense anymore. It started with Evan, my sister's fiancé, flipping through an old album, grinning like always. "You were a cute kid, man," he said, then paused. "Wait, huh?" I didn't even look up at first. Thought he was just making conversation, stalling until dessert. Then I heard the tone change. "The same tree," he said slowly. "Look, in every picture, same star, same ornaments, same corner. That red one, see? Always crooked." I turned. He laid the photos side by side. Me at 5, me at 7, me at maybe 10. Same angle, same pose, same damn sweater. Even the background was identical, a faded wall with a crack running behind the window. And in one, a birthday cake with 5 candles. In another, the same cake, now with 8. Evan's brow furrowed. "That's not normal, right?" I said nothing. Sarah leaned in. "Maybe Mum just liked that spot." Evan shook his head. "These were staged. Look at the light. Look at the faces. Even the camera settings are the same. These were taken all at once." "No," my mother said, finally speaking, "that's ridiculous." But she didn't sound insulted. She sounded rehearsed. Then Evan made it worse. He reached into the album's back sleeve and pulled out a photo I hadn't seen in years. Or ever. A woman I didn't recognize, dark eyes, holding a boy in her lap. He was maybe 4. Brown hair, crooked tooth, wearing my old jacket. Only the jacket was too clean. Too new. And the boy. The boy wasn't smiling. "Who's this?" Evan asked. My father moved quickly, more than I'd ever seen him move. He took the photo from Evan's hand and shoved it back into the album, then closed it with a sharp snap. "Dinner's getting cold." But no one sat. Sarah looked at me. "Do you know her?" I didn't answer, because I did. Not from memories, not from stories, but from something deeper. Her face tugged at something in me, like a dream half remembered. Like music you can hum but can't name. My head buzzed, my palms itched, and then the silence. I walked outside without putting on shoes, holding that one photo Evan had missed, the one that fell under the table. I watched it for a long moment. The woman's eyes stared straight into mine. Then I set it on fire. It curled and blackened in seconds, the flame dancing up her face and into the boy's. The boy who might have been me. Or not. Behind me, through the window, my mother stood frozen. She didn't come out, didn't knock, just stood there, lips slightly parted, as if waiting for me to speak. But I didn't. I just stood there with the ashes of a false memory in my hands and a single question in my throat. When did it all begin? I started thinking, really thinking, when everything around me cracked, when that dinner turned from warmth to wreckage in less than 5 minutes, when I realized that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't who I thought I was, and maybe they weren't either. I started thinking, really thinking, when everything cracked, and I couldn't stop. That night I lay in bed fully dressed, lights off, staring at the ceiling like it might give me answers. The photo was gone, but its shadow stayed. The boy, the woman. Her eyes, not pleading, not sad, just watching. I tried to recall birthdays, vacations, summers. But my memory hit a wall, a sharp, clean break around age 6. Before that, nothing but fog, no scraped knees, no lullabies, no first steps, first words, first anything. Just a void that I'd always accepted. Until now. I sat up, my phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. What the hell was that? I didn't answer because I didn't know. Another message followed, this one from Evan. Sorry, I didn't mean to stir anything, but something's off. You feel it too, right? Yes, I did. But I wasn't ready to say it. Instead, I opened the drawer beside my bed. There was a box in there I hadn't touched in years, full of old report cards, drawings, school photos. I dumped it onto the floor. Everything looked fine. Until it didn't. The earliest record, a school ID from 2nd grade, had my name, my birth date. But the photo didn't match. The haircut was wrong, the eyes were darker. Or maybe it was just the light. Next to it, a child's drawing, a stick figure family, 2 tall ones, 1 small, the word Mom scribbled above the woman, but not Dad. The man had no label, no face. I flipped it over. On the back, written in child's handwriting, she smells like soap, he doesn't talk. I don't remember writing that. The next day, I went back to my parents' house, alone. They acted normal, too normal. Dad was pruning the bushes like it was any weekend. Mom made coffee. When I stepped inside, she smiled. Rough night, huh? She said. You want eggs? I stared at her. Where's the album? She froze for half a second. Which one? You know which one. She wiped her hands on a towel, turned, opened a drawer. No album. She opened another. Still nothing. We must have put it away, she said. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were scanning, not looking at me but past me, measuring. You burned a picture, my father said from the doorway. Not a question, a statement. I turned. What was in that photo? He didn't blink. A mistake. That's when something cracked. What does that mean? Silence. He didn't move. Neither did I. Mum reached for her coffee but didn't drink. I stepped closer. Who is she? The woman in the picture. She's no one, my mother said, too fast. She was from before us. Before me. Neither of them answered. I walked out, not in anger, in quiet, but I heard the door click behind me, not slam, click, locked. That night I dreamed of a hallway. Endless. Walls the color of paper. I was small, barefoot, running. Doors on both sides. One was open. Inside, a woman sat in a chair, humming. I reached for her. She said one word, but I woke up before I heard it. I called Sarah the next morning. She sounded tired. You okay? No. You think they're hiding something? Yes. She was quiet for a beat. Then, I checked the pictures on my end too. You're right. They're fake. Some have digital timestamps, all within 1 week, across 10 years of birthdays. The air felt thinner. You ever wonder why we never met Dad's side of the family? I asked. All the time, she whispered. They said they died in the war, but there are no records, no funerals, no photos. The line buzzed. Maybe, she said slowly, they weren't his family at all. And that was the moment I stopped wondering and started doubting everything. The first thing I did was buy a burner phone, not because I thought they were watching me, but because part of me hoped they were. If they'd built a life out of lies, I wanted them to feel it tremble, even a little. I called the local archives, the hospital, the school district, gave them my name, my supposed birth date, asked for records, documents, anything that could tie me to a beginning. Most said the same thing. We don't keep files that far back, or that record must have been lost during the relocation. But one woman, an administrator from the school board, hesitated. Actually, I see something strange. You were enrolled in 2nd grade with no prior school listed. No kindergarten? No preschool, nothing before age 7. Her voice dropped. That's highly unusual. I thanked her and hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From clarity. They'd planted me at age 7, like a tree with fake roots. I went home and stared at myself in the mirror. I tilted my head, looking for something that belonged to them. My mother's chin, my father's nose. But all I saw was a man held together by borrowed stories and missing time. The phone buzzed, an unknown number. Don't go digging, a voice said, male, calm. Some things don't want to be found. Click, I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I drove to the edge of town. There's an old diner there where truckers stop and no one asks questions. I sat at the counter, ordered black coffee, and waited for morning. An old man slid into the stool next to me, heavy coat, cigarette breath. "You look like hell," he said. "Yeah." "Woman?" "No. Ghosts." He laughed. "I know that look. You found out something you weren't supposed to." I didn't reply, but he kept going. "Let me guess. Your folks ain't who they say they are." That made me turn. He saw the shift in my face and nodded. "Happened to my buddy. Whole life, lie. Turns out he was a war orphan. Family picked him up on the run, fake papers, new name." "Where was this?" "East, border towns. People got desperate. A child makes good cover. You look like a family. They let you through." A beat passed. My coffee went cold. I pulled out my phone and showed him the picture, the one I hadn't burned. The woman and the boy. He looked at it for a long time. "Could be," he muttered. "That ain't your mom, is it?" "I don't know." He passed the photo back. "Then maybe it is." That was my first real clue. I drove back and did something stupid. I returned to my parents' house, not to confront, to test. I rang the bell, holding the picture in full view. My mother opened the door. She froze. "She's no one," she said, voice flat. I didn't ask. My father stepped into the hallway. "What do you want?" "To know who I am." He gave me a long, hard look. "You're our son. We raised you. That's all that matters." "That's not the same thing." He stepped forward. "Don't do this." I held out the photo. "Then tell me her name." My mother flinched. They said nothing. That was all I needed. I left without another word. Later, I called a friend, Liz. She's a lawyer. We hadn't spoken in years, but she picked up on the first ring. "You ever hear of adults reporting a kidnapping from when they were children?" I asked. Silence. Then, "You serious?" "Yeah." "You need to go to the police." "What if it happened overseas, during war? What if the people involved are citizens now?" Another pause. "Still counts. If you have even a shred of evidence, they'll open a case. And if I don't? Then make them dig for it." I hung up and looked at the mirror again. The man in the reflection wasn't afraid anymore. He was hunting. I filed the report on a Thursday. The officer behind the desk didn't blink when I said, "I think I was kidnapped as a child." He just reached for a form, clicked his pen and said, "Start from the beginning." But there was no beginning, just a middle that cracked open. He asked for documents. I gave what I had. Photos, school records, the drawing. He asked for names. I gave those too. Then he looked me in the eye and said, "We'll look into it. But you understand, this could blow up your entire family." I nodded. That's the point. For a while I waited, but waiting became unbearable. So I started looking myself. I requested access to immigration logs from the year we moved to the US. A Freedom of Information request. Weeks, red tape. But something came through. A manifest. One entry. A couple arriving with a child. No birth certificate, reuniting with distant relatives. Except I'd never met a single relative. And the names they used? Slightly altered from their current ones. My father had dropped 2 letters. My mother had changed hers entirely. I printed the record, highlighted the entry, and stared at it until my vision blurred. Next, I searched the web. Forums, support groups, old news articles. That's when I found the photograph, a grainy image from a refugee camp in 1996. A woman, the same one from my burned photo, sitting on a cot, clutching a child. Headline, "Mothers plead for missing children after border chaos." I clicked. The article detailed an overnight evacuation, dozens of children lost, families separated in the dark. One quote stood out, "My son was there, and then he wasn't. Someone took him. I know he's alive." The woman's name, Alma Kovac. I whispered it aloud. Alma. It rang in my bones. I printed the article and brought it to the police. They scanned it, nodded, said they'd reach out through Interpol, but I saw it in their eyes. This would take time. Too much time. So I called Liz again. "You're not going to like this," I told her, "but I need to know how to run a background check on my own parents. Legally? Let's assume I don't care." Silence. Then, "Come to my office, now." Her office was small, cluttered. I sat across from her, handed over the manifest, the article, the photos. She didn't speak for 5 minutes, then she looked up. "This is real." I nodded. She typed, fast, focused. "Okay. Social security numbers, immigration records, any aliases?" She dug deeper than I ever could, and she found something. "They applied for asylum using your name," she said. "Claimed you were their biological son. But the dates don't match. The application lists your birth in 93. School records say you didn't exist until 98. She turned the monitor. "This is identity fraud. Maybe kidnapping, maybe both." I didn't speak, because something broke in me. Not the anger, I'd passed that. It was the silence. All those years, all those moments. Manufactured, scripted, controlled. Birthdays that weren't mine. Stories that never happened. A life built like a stage set, perfect from the outside, and behind it, nothing. That night I drove back again. I didn't knock. I walked in with the article in my hand. My mother was in the kitchen. My father at the table. I laid the paper between them. "Her name is Alma," I said. They didn't look at it. "I know who I am now." Still no movement. Then my mother whispered, "We saved you." It wasn't an apology, it was a claim. My father finally looked up. "You'd have died over there." "You don't get to decide that." He stood. "We gave you a life, a future. You gave me a lie." His jaw clenched. "You ungrateful." I didn't flinch, just stared. They didn't follow me when I left, but I knew in that silence that I had already won. They didn't follow me, but someone else did. A week after the confrontation, I started noticing the car. A grey sedan, parked across the street from my apartment. No plates, same windshield crack on the passenger side. At first I thought it was paranoia, trauma residue, until it showed up near Liz's office too. That's when I stopped sleeping. I changed my route to work, changed my grocery store, started watching every face twice, every reflection in every glass surface. I wasn't just chasing truth anymore, I was being watched for it. I called Liz again. "They're having me followed." She didn't laugh. "It's possible. If your parents are facing deportation or criminal charges, someone might be trying to pressure you, or discredit you." I asked if it was legal. "Not if they're connected to a case under investigation." "What can I do?" "Go public." I hung up without answering. Not because I disagreed, but because I wasn't ready to become a symbol. Not yet. That night, I opened the article again. Alma's face stared up at me. Same lines, same eyes, slightly older now in my mind. I searched her name on social media, hundreds of results, but one caught my attention, a profile with no posts, no photos, just a name and a location. Debrecen, Hungary. I hesitated, then I typed, "I think I'm your son, I have questions." Send, nothing for hours. Then, "What is your favorite smell?" I stared at the message, my heart started pounding. "Soap," I typed. "Your hands smelled like soap." The reply came instantly. "And your left foot is crooked. You were born that way." I dropped the phone. My hands were shaking. The next message, "I knew you were alive. I prayed every day." I couldn't breathe. We moved to video call. The screen opened, pixelated, and there she was. Older, worn, but real. She didn't cry. Neither did I. She just looked. "My name is Alma," she said. "But I think you already know that." "I think I do." She told me everything, the night of the evacuation, the chaos, the screaming. She held my hand 1 second, then it was gone. Someone pushed her, someone pulled me. And then I vanished. She searched, she begged. No one listened. No system existed to track a missing child in that mess. "But I never stopped," she said. "I carried your baby photo in my pocket for 10 years. She held it up. It was burned at the edges, but there I was. A real boy, a real moment. Not a staged one. I asked the question that had been sitting on my tongue for weeks. "Do you want me back?" She didn't blink. "You were never gone." The next day, I filed a second statement with the police, attaching our conversation. Her testimony, her photos, the old article. They said the investigation would now expand to an international level. Charges were pending. My parents, no, the couple who took me, would face federal fraud, passport falsification, kidnapping. Possible extradition. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt cold. The kind of cold that comes not from winter, but from losing a foundation you stood on your entire life. Sarah called me in tears. "You're really not coming for Christmas?" "No." She paused. "I believe you. I don't know what's real anymore." Neither did I. For 30 years. We hung up. I didn't blame her. She had to process her own version of betrayal. That night, Alma sent me a photo, a room in her house, a cot, a quilt, a shelf of children's books in Hungarian. "It's yours," she wrote, and for the first time in my life, I believed it. I booked the flight under my real name, the one on my original birth record, not the one they gave me. Customs looked twice, asked questions, stamped the passport slowly, like they sensed something strange beneath the surface. I said I was visiting family. That was the truth, finally. Debrecen was colder than I remembered, not that I remembered anything at all. Alma met me at the airport with a wool scarf in her hands. She didn't cry, neither did I. She reached out, touched my cheek once, like she had to confirm I was real. "You're taller than your father," she said, "but you have his eyes." She didn't mean the man who raised me. The apartment was small but warm. She had a tea kettle on, a cat asleep on the radiator. She didn't ask questions right away, neither did I. We just sat across from each other, sipping black tea, watching the steam rise between us. Then she stood and walked to a drawer. She pulled out a box, taped, battered, old. Inside, baby shoes, a lock of hair, a photo album not staged but messy. Real, bent corners, people laughing mid-blink. Me on her lap, pointing at a pigeon. Me in a bathtub, crying. Me. I flipped the pages slowly, feeling something in my chest open, not grief, not rage, space, like a window cracking for the first time in years. "You were mine," she said. "Then you were gone. I'm back now." She nodded, like that was enough. The next day, we visited the records office. She filed a request to restore my birth name in Hungary. I signed it. There was no ceremony, just forms, stamps, a quiet acknowledgement that something broken was being mended. In the afternoon, I got a message from Liz. "Interpol confirmed. Arrest warrants issued. Your parents are being detained for questioning." I showed Alma the screen. She looked for a long moment. "What happens to them now?" "They'll face trial, maybe deportation, prison." She didn't smile, just nodded. "Then it's done." But it wasn't, because when I returned to the US, the story followed me. Someone leaked the case to the press. Not names, but enough. Man discovers. He was kidnapped as child during war, Sue's adoptive parents. Journalists camped near my building. Cameras flashed when I left for groceries, microphones shoved in my face. "Are you angry? Do you forgive them? Are you going to change your name legally?" I said nothing. I moved in silence, but I was building something. I rented a workspace, just a white room, a desk, a board on the wall. I printed every document I had, every photo. I mapped it all, not for revenge anymore, but for clarity. And I wasn't alone. Evan reached out again. "I want to help." He came by, carrying folders. "I work with a guy in photo forensics. We can trace manipulation, prove which images were altered." Together, we built the case tighter than law enforcement ever did. Sarah sent me a voicemail at 2 a.m. "They lied to both of us. I checked my birth records. I'm not adopted, but there's a 5-year gap in our files. I think they brought me along as cover." I called her back. "You're my sister," I said, "not by blood, but by survival." She cried. "I didn't. I had work to do." The final step was a sealed envelope from Hungary, official recognition of my restored identity. Name, birth date, city. I hung the paper on the board, centered it. That was the real beginning. The rest, the lies, the manipulation, the fake photos, the false love, was just noise. I stood there, alone in that white room, and whispered it aloud. "My name is Martin Kovac." And this time, no one could take it from me. The courtroom was colder than I expected, not physically, just stripped. White lights, pale wood, a judge with tired eyes, a clerk with a cough. Rows of seats half filled, reporters maybe, or strangers drawn to scandal, and then them, my parents. They looked smaller in that space. My mother wore a beige coat she'd worn every winter for the last decade. My father sat with arms crossed, jaw locked. They didn't look at me. I sat across the aisle, flanked by Liz and an officer from Interpol. I didn't need to testify yet, not formally. Today was a procedural hearing, but the press had already called it the reckoning. Outside, the crowd pulsed. Inside, silence ruled. The judge read the charges: immigration fraud, passport forgery, illegal adoption under false pretense, suspected kidnapping. My mother shifted. My father didn't move. Liz leaned in. They'll likely deny everything. They already did. Today we changed that. The prosecution played footage, excerpts from my interviews, clips of the article, the Interpol report. Then came the forensics. Evan's contact had confirmed it. All my childhood photos had identical metadata. Same camera, same lighting. Taken over 3 days, 10 years of birthdays, staged in a single weekend. I glanced at Sarah. She sat behind me, hands clenched. We hadn't spoken face to face since our last call, but I could feel her there, silent but standing. Then the judge turned to the defense. My father stood. His voice was steady. We raised him. We fed him, clothed him, educated him. We gave him every opportunity. He was loved. Was he your son? The judge asked. My father paused. He became ours. That was all he said. Then my mother. Her voice was thinner. I lost everything in the war, she said. My home, my family. We saw him, alone, scared. No one claimed him. We thought, if no one would love him, we would. You never reported him as a found child. We couldn't. We were crossing borders. They wouldn't let us through without a family. He was our way out. She said it like a justification, not a confession. The judge nodded, took notes, called for recess. I stepped outside. The hallway was full of whispers, cameras, questions. I kept walking. Sarah caught up with me near the stairs. Her voice was hoarse. You okay? I don't know what that means anymore. She touched my arm. You're not alone. That stopped me. I turned to her. Do you believe them? That they loved us? She didn't answer right away. I think they needed us more than we needed them. That felt true, sharp and uncomfortably real. We stood there in silence. Just two people trying to remember who they were before someone else decided for them. The next session was public. The gallery filled. My mother's face appeared on a screen outside the courthouse. Headlines scrolled. Wartime kidnapping uncovered after 30 years. Inside, the judge read the final summary. The court finds sufficient evidence to proceed with full charges in both the United States and Hungary. Custody will be transferred, extradition pending. My father finally turned his head toward me, just once. No expression, no plea, just acknowledgement. Like he saw me for the first time and understood that he'd already lost. My mother cried. I didn't. I walked out the front steps into the light and into the noise, reporters yelling my name, microphones in my face. What will you do now? Do you forgive them? Are you pressing for prison time? I said nothing. I just kept walking, down the steps, into the crowd, then through it, until it closed behind me like a curtain falling on the last scene. No speech, no statement, just exit. She stood at the edge of the platform when my train arrived, wrapped in a navy coat, holding a thermos in both hands like a ritual. I stepped off. She smiled. I nodded. We didn't say much. We didn't need to. At her apartment, the windows faced the river. The shelf still held the same quilted books. A small frame on the table showed the photo I'd seen burned, now fully intact. We sat on the couch. She poured tea. Outside, snow began to fall quietly, like it had been waiting for this moment. I looked around, not searching, just seeing. No echoes, no shadows. Just now. Alma reached out and placed something in my hand. A key. To your room, she said. I didn't ask which one. Later I stood by the window. She moved behind me, her presence gentle but solid. No flashbacks, no noise, just breath. I didn't feel closure. I didn't feel peace. I felt real. That was enough. I stayed at the window long after she'd gone to sleep, watching the street lamps flicker in the snow. And I didn't go back.